Sponsored by Audible. Go to audible.com/vector or text VECTOR to 500 500 to start your 30-day trial. Made by Google 2019 has come and gone, and legit, it was a complete cluster of an event. So much great technology given so much short shift. It was like watching Pitch Meeting with studio guy asking how they were going to fill the runtime with amazing new products and services, and writer guy responding no, with excruciatingly slow design slam poetry and onstage interviews. Will it be hard to have an event and show off almost nothing?
Super easy, barely an inconvenience. Oh, really?
About an hour in, we'll just say,
and we couldn't get to all the product experiences today, so if you're here with us in New York, there'll be a lot more product details to see upstairs in person. And for those on the live stream, please go to the Google Store online, see a lot more.
And then cut off the event. Seriously, it was like watching Game of Thrones Season 8, offering them more episodes, begging them for more episodes, and just watching them mic drop and peace out. Just like that. Anyway, the products and technology that did manage to somehow sneak up on stage were so good that it almost makes up for the obvious lack of planning and organization that went into the event. Almost. But I'll complain more later. Right now, I want to focus on the positive. That cool tech and what I very much think Apple can learn from it. I'm Rene Ritchie, and this is Vector. We got to see more of the Pixel phones than we did the Pixel book. Poor lappy little bastard. Whatever. The Pixel 4 uses similar, if not the same, facial geometry scanning tech as the iPhone has since 2017. There are two main differences though. First, there's a radar chip, formerly called Project Soli, now called MotionSense, and it's all housed in a huge forehead assembly. And this just in, while it looks like Google did dupe Apple's setup interface, it doesn't look like they duped Apple's attention requirement, which means your phone can be unlocked even if you're not looking at it, or even if your eyes aren't open at all. Now, good on them for warning people that Face Unlock can be used against them right up front in the setup, but the more roadblocks you can put in the way, the better. So hopefully Google adds that, and soon. The second difference is a setting that lets you choose if you want to see the lock screen first or not. With the iPhone, you have no choice. You see the lock screen unless and until you swipe up, which makes the whole Face ID system feel slow by comparison. Letting us set the iPhone to open on unlock if we want it that way would be a terrific option and make Face ID feel as hella fast as it is. Google does this weird thing with Pixel camera presentations where they go out of their way to mention they don't need certain commonly adopted camera hardware because their software is just so good, only to add that exact hardware a year later. Optical image stabilization, camera bump, a second camera. No one would even notice if they didn't make such a big deal about not needing it in the first place, when it's obvious they do. This year it was ultra wide angle.
So while wide angle can be fun, we think telephoto is more important.
I feel personally attacked.
So one guess as to what we'll see next year? But what they do is magic. In between slagging Apple for catching up in semantics and fusion, while at the same time catching up to Apple in virtual lens modeling and portrait depth data, Google still found time to show off some really damn impressive digital zoom technology. It builds on their existing super zoom software from last year by adding in the optical zoom of the new telephoto lens, and it looks terrific. So terrific, it really makes me want Google to live up to the spirit of Android and make their camera app available everywhere. Google has gone and done a lot of what I'd been hoping Apple would do for the home, what Apple typically does for a lot of things: integrate. I got kind of confused over the Nest and Home and Wi-Fi and Point branding, but what Google basically did was combine their mesh Wi-Fi product with their Home Assistant and speaker products to make something that really is the best of many worlds. Not only does it mean you have less stuff to buy and maintain, but it means the stuff you buy works better. Your assistant isn't on the network, it is the network, and your router isn't shielded away, it's out and on display. I still think Apple killing instead of evolving the airport router was one of their biggest mistakes in the modern era. I'm gonna do a whole video on that again because it's just so frustrating. But an Apple mesh router system that, sure, you could buy independently, but also came in every HomePod, and hopefully one day HomePod Mini, and every Apple TV, and could pair seamlessly with an iPad while charging it for bedroom or kitchen use would be just so killer, like planet killer. I don't want a Google box at the endpoint of my home internet connection, but right now, Apple, the privacy-centric company, isn't doing anything to help with that crucial bit of infrastructure privacy. And this is one of the very few times I'll armchair spend their money and resources to say they absolutely should be. The beginning of the Google event was a complete structural mess, with them jumping around from product to product as though they thought the narrative was like trailing them in a film noir movie and they wanted to lose it as quickly as possible. But the overall theme was one very near and dear to me: ambient computing. It's going to be a huge part of the future, both far field with the aforementioned room speakers and near field with wireless headsets like AirPods and Pixel Buds. And Google is winning here because they're winning at the core assistant technology that will drive it. Actually, Google and Amazon both. Some will say Apple's privacy focus prevents them from collecting the data necessary to be competitive when it comes at assistance. Bunk. Apple has said as much. Bunk. Apple essentially abandoned Siri after Steve Jobs died and Scott Forstall left, and they've only recently picked it up again with the hire of John Giannandrea. There will be room for multiple assistants in the future, and owning the device means owning Assistant 1 and having the opportunity to re-onboard with every new hardware and software release. But if we're gonna get to SiriOS, a voice and AI layer that abstracts away a lot of everything else, there's precious little time to waste getting there. And Siri is still inconsistent between devices and from one moment to the next. And just like Apple heavily invested in getting to the best silicon in the world last decade, they need to invest even more heavily in getting to the best AI in the world right now. I mean, as long as I'm spending their money and resources, right? Real talk. I just want to be able to say, yo, continue Audible, and have my audiobook Ken Kashienda's amazing creative selection resume from whichever device I'm using, wherever I'm using it. If you've ever been curious about how Apple creates products from the iPhone hardware to the software keyboard that runs on it, Ken was there at the time and can tell you all about it because he did a lot of it. He explains how Apple designs their massively popular products again and again through careful consideration, iteration, and so many demos. I cannot recommend it enough. And you can start listening to it right now by going to audible.com/vector or texting Vector to 500-500 to get your 30-day Audible trial. Choose one audiobook and 2 Audible originals, absolutely free. That's audible.com, audible.com/vector, or text Vector to 500-500 and start listening today. Thanks Audible, and thanks to all of you for supporting the show. Okay, now here's where I turn it over to you. Hit like if you do, subscribe if you haven't already, Google punch that bell gizmo so you don't miss the next episode, then hit up the comments and let me know. What did you think of Made by Google 2019? The good, the bad, and the just so damn short. Thanks for watching. See you next video.